Welcome to the final presentation for the Bath County Virginia Housing Needs Assessment and Market Analysis. This report was a collaborative effort of the Central Shenandoah Planning District Commission, the County of Bath, and the Virginia Housing Development Authority. Special thanks to the Virginia Housing Development Authority for funding this study. This presentation will cover the following topics. First, we will discuss the purpose of the project and the project approach. Next, we will cover the work completed, including the demographic and economic trends analysis, housing needs analysis, and strategy recommendations for the county moving forward. We will provide instruction for providing comment at the end of the presentation. The Housing Needs Assessment and Market Analysis was completed by Camoin 310, a full-service national economic development firm with locations in Richmond, Virginia, and throughout the Northeast. The presentation today will be presented by myself, Dan Gunderson, who served as project principal, the project manager, Tom Dworsky, and Amy Collins, the lead analyst for this project. This report is framed around answering three questions. First, what are the most effective ways to increase the availability of workforce housing? Second, how will the county and its partners address the limited availability of rental options and entry-level home ownership? And third, how can the economy be made more resilient through housing strategies? The overall purpose of the study is to understand and quantify the housing affordability challenge in Bath County and develop strategies and recommendations to alleviate this challenge. In conducting this analysis, we used quantitative data from a number of proprietary and public data sources in combination with qualitative data learned through stakeholder interviews, a community meeting, and an employer and employee survey. It is helpful to understand why housing is important in the context of this project. A variety of housing types is important to the economic vitality of communities. Affordable homes support the local workforce so workers can live close to their jobs. Shorter commutes allow workers to spend more time with their families, while the community benefits from having employees such as school teachers, nurses, and business owners living locally and engaged in the community. A healthy mix of housing options for households across the age spectrum ensures that opportunities for all individuals are there to improve their economic situation and contribute to their communities. Adding additional housing to Bath County will help ensure that a steady flow of younger residents will put down roots in Bath County and enroll their children in its schools, join volunteer organizations, and support community groups. Additionally, local businesses will benefit both from having a larger customer base of year-round residents and from an improved ability to attract and retain workers. All of these impacts will compound, creating a more vibrant culture and a stronger sense of place in Bath County that is attractive both to current and potential residents. The Housing Needs Assessment and Market Analysis is comprised of three main sections. The first is the demographic and economic analysis. This creates a baseline of information that informs the report and helps us frame the final strategies and recommendations. The purpose of this section is to provide a statistical foundation for housing strategies and includes socioeconomic information, including population, industry breakdown, median household income, and commute patterns. The housing needs analysis comprises the bulk of our work and contains a housing supply and demand analysis supplemented by stakeholder interviews, a community meeting, employee and employer surveys, and land suitability assessment. Specifically, the supply analysis helps us understand the type of housing, quality, cost, and affordability vacancy, seasonality, and other key attributes that have changed over time. The demand analysis provides information on the housing gaps that exist in Bath County. Community engagement sheds light on the capacity available for taking on additional housing strategies, as well as existing housing efforts underway and previous housing projects. In addition, it helps show how market conditions affect access to housing and employers' ability to attract and retain workers, as well as employees' need for housing. The land suitability assessment identifies sites which show the most promise for future housing development, both in the short and long term. Using the information collected in the preceding steps, we then provide strategy recommendations to accommodate existing and future housing demand in Bath County. Recognizing local constraints to achieve housing goals, we provide a framework that fits within the existing capacity of partner organizations.
First, we will review the data from the demographic and economic overview. In our report, we compare Bath County to other geographies to assess the economic health, potential opportunities, and potential challenges within the county. This comparison of geographic locations can also help support or challenge housing and economic perceptions. For this analysis, we compare Bath County to the Bath County region, shown here, which includes the neighboring counties of Allegheny, Virginia, Augusta, Virginia, Greenbrier, West Virginia, Highland, Virginia, Pocahontas, West Virginia, and Rockbridge, Virginia, and the cities of Buena Vista, Covington, Lexington, Stanton, and Waynesboro, all located in Virginia. Since 1999, Bath County's population has dropped 15%, shown here in the orange line, whereas in the region it has increased, shown here in the green line. Much of the regional growth can be attributed to Augusta County, which has contributed 88% to total region-wide growth. We also looked at the distribution of age and found that 45% of the population within Bath County is aged 55 and up, compared to 30% statewide. And 30% of the population is under 35, compared to 45% statewide. Therefore, housing issues that address the 55 and over population will be important in future housing initiatives. When examining all the jobs in Bath County, we see a 3.6% drop in jobs from 2014 to 2019, but an increase in the study region of 3.7% and an increase in the state of 8.3%. We also reviewed the top industry sectors in the county. The accommodation and food services industry is the largest industry and makes up more than 1/3 of all employment. This is largely dominated by the Omni Homestead Resort. Local government is the second largest sector, which includes the Bath County Public Schools. And the third largest sector is the healthcare and social assistance sector, driven by Bath Community Hospital. We look at COMMUTE data to understand where people who live in Bath County work and also where Bath County workers live. Half of all Bath County residents commute out of Bath County for work, while over half of Bath County workers commute into the area for work. Outside of the county, the most common work destinations for residents, we call these outcommuters, are Allegheny County, Covington, and Augusta County. These same counties are the most common places of residence for Bath County workers who are not residents, which we call incommuters. The greatest proportion of residents have a commute less than 10 miles, about 36%, while 29% have a commute of over 50 miles. This speaks to the diffuse nature of work in rural communities. Overall, high levels of in and out commuting indicate a mismatch between employment opportunities and housing opportunities.
Next, we will review the housing need analysis section of the report. It includes an overview of the supply and demand analysis, community engagement findings, and land suitability assessment. The purpose of this section is to understand the current supply and demand of Bath County's housing, In the report, we examine the current housing supply's age, structure, vacancy and occupancy trends, value, and affordability. For demand, we look at recent home sales, recent building permits, and other data focused on workforce housing and the senior population. Given this information, we can gather how the current supply is or is not meeting the needs of the community. The main findings from the supply analysis indicate that seasonal units make up a very high proportion of the region's housing stock, about 1 out of 3 homes, compared to 1 out of 10 homes in the region overall. In addition, the number of year-round units has decreased, while both seasonally occupied units and vacant units have increased. These trends compound to reduce the amount of housing stock available overall to year-round workers. In addition, almost 12% of the housing stock is vacant compared to 8% statewide, and nearly a quarter of all units in the county were built prior to 1939. This points to the potential for rehabilitating older vacant homes and returning them to the market to house members of the community. Seasonal housing is having a significant impact on the housing market in Bath County. The real estate market currently caters primarily to second homeowners and seasonal visitors. Most new construction is priced at $300,000 and above, and practically no new rental housing has been constructed over the last decade. In addition, many property owners have converted year-round rental units into seasonal rentals for a higher return. Short-term rentals, like those advertised on platforms such as Airbnb and Vrbo, impact the local housing market because they make it easy for homeowners to rent to vacationers, who are typically willing to pay higher rents than local residents. A housing unit that once housed a year-round local resident may be converted to a seasonal short-term rental, removing the unit from the year-round rental housing stock and thus constricting the supply of rental housing and putting upward pressure on housing costs. To illustrate the impact of short-term rentals, if we converted them all to year-round rentals, this would result in a 19% increase in the rental housing supply. Reducing the housing supply by this amount impacts the availability of year-round rentals available to Bath County residents. When examining home affordability, we see a mismatch between homes actually sold and homes available on the market. Homes recently sold have a median price of $127,000, whereas homes on the market have a median price of $300,000. Many of the pricier homes have sat on the market for months or even years. Keep in mind that a $300,000 home requires a household income of $83,000 to afford, compared to Bath County's median household income of about $47,000. This indicates that homes currently available for sale in the county are considerably more expensive than the price points that prospective homebuyers are looking for. In many cases, homes that are affordable are of substandard quality and require significant modernization and repair. As for year-round rentals, they are very difficult to find without a personal connection, but are generally affordable when available. To understand the need for additional housing in Bath County, we conducted a demand analysis that looked at demand coming from several groups: those commuting into Bath County for work, underhoused individuals who may currently be living with a relative or group but wish to live alone, and seniors seeking to downsize. Based on our analysis, we estimate there is demand for between 101 and 248 units of for-sale housing, between 52 and 129 units of workforce rental housing, and between 72 and 181 units of senior rentals. This demand will be best met through a combination of new development and rehabilitation of existing building stock. To complement our data analysis, we reached out to the community to understand the county's housing challenges. To understand how the current housing situation in Bath County may be impacting employers and employees in the county, we created online surveys. There were 22 responses to the employer survey and 168 responses to the employee survey. In addition, we conducted 8 interviews with a variety of stakeholders about the state of housing in Bath County. These interviewees included business owners and managers in a variety of industries, including hotels, restaurants, healthcare, and manufacturing, as well as members of the real estate community and a representative of the school district. The key findings from the survey and interviews are highlighted here. First, 84% of workers feel there are a lack of housing options in Bath County. Respondents felt a variety of housing types are needed, including single-family, multifamily, condos, and apartments. However, there are barriers to getting new housing stock built. We heard there are a lack of contractors and high construction costs in the county, which impact capacity for housing development. We often heard that rental units are very hard to find, often requiring a connection. With regards to the affordable homes that are available on the market, these are often substandard in quality. And we can see that a lack of housing is impacting Bath County's businesses. 82% of employers agree that finding affordable housing is a major challenge for employees. Our team conducted a land suitability assessment to evaluate the county's capacity to support new residential development. We examined site availability and zoning, physical infrastructure availability, and capacity to provide public services. Overall, we found the county has sufficient water, wastewater, and school capacity to support additional housing demand. However, maintenance needs on certain water and sewer lines will pose a challenge to future housing development. While the housing supply is tightest in the Hot Springs, Warm Springs area, development sites throughout the county were identified through discussions with county representatives and are indicated on the map shown here. These include the future visitor center site in Mitchelltown, Main Street in Hot Springs, Mountain View Terrace in Hot Springs, Cedarwood Subdivision in Cedar Creek, the Millboro Industrial Park site, and the Millboro Elementary School parcel. More information on these sites can be found in the report.
Taken together, the preceding parts of the housing needs assessment paint a picture of the housing situation in Bath County. In short, there is not enough quality housing at needed price points to support the existing year-round and seasonal workforce. The purpose here, then, is to provide actionable items that can help Bath County to facilitate more housing and create the organizational capacity to coordinate these efforts. These strategy recommendations are grouped into 4 categories: coordination, education, programs and tools, and site readiness. While this will include a high-level overview of each strategy, the full report includes additional detail and examples of each strategy in other communities. Above all else, the county and its partners need to increase their internal capacity to systematically improve and increase the housing stock. We recognize this work will take a coordinated effort between agencies, developers, county offices, and nonprofit entities. First, we suggest to form a county or regional partnership to coordinate existing housing programs. We see this having multiple functions, depending on the organizations involved and the goals of each. Ideally, a partnership would take the findings of this report back to their home organizations to coordinate actions to increase the overall housing stock in Bath County. Secondly, coordinate effective relationships and partnerships with all the housing entities. We see this as a full or part-time staff person to coordinate all the housing efforts in the county. This person could apply for funding, work with partners to understand gaps in services, and help educate other community partners. Next, make it easier to find housing by utilizing existing online platforms. Utilize existing online platforms and link to the county website where available properties for rent or sale can be found. Next, assist with the home buying process. Work with local banks to establish mortgage, education, and loan programs that make the home buying process easier and more affordable. Many models exist, including paying for private mortgage insurance, providing mandatory education on budgeting and saving for a home, and reducing or waiving lawyer fees or inspection fees by working with a local provider. Finally, we suggest to assess the interest in smaller scale housing for the senior or seasonal population. This would happen as part of the regional partnership. Next, we'll talk about our strategy recommendations around education. First, increase familiarity with existing federal and state housing programs. A number of federal and state housing programs exist that could be tapped by local elected officials, developers, homeowners, renters, and other agencies. Here, it would be important to learn more about these programs to determine how well they align with the housing needs of Bath County. Also, establish landlord and tenant education. Here, the suggestion would be to create educational information so tenants understand their rights when it comes to rental issues, and add language and resources to partner websites. Bath County and its partners could also work with local real estate agents and banks to establish a good renter training program, including resources about the Virginia Residential Landlord and Tenant Act.
Here are some strategies incorporating various housing programs and tools. Use a land trust model to encourage home ownership. A land trust is a legal entity that raises funds to purchase land from a property owner for a specific use, usually in perpetuity. While the land trust owns the land, they allow certain functions to occur, such as farming, conservation, or affordable housing. By owning the land and the rights to the land trust provides an affordable opportunity for home ownership. Understand and promote building modifications for multi-unit housing. This strategy seeks to educate and encourage Bath County residents to take advantage of zoning regulations that allow adding additional units on their property through accessory dwelling units. It also seeks to simplify and streamline the process of subdividing lots and equipping new lots with the necessary infrastructure to build. Here we suggest creating language on the county's website that simplifies code language and highlights the benefits of creating a year-round rental lot or subdividing a lot. Continue and expand a home improvement program for existing homeowners. Here we suggest prioritizing lower-income homeowners and providing an incentive for housing upkeep. This could be a tax credit program or matching grant program. Once established, we suggest creating a marketing campaign to get the word out and to highlight success stories in digital and print media. Finally, explore tax exemption and abatement for rehabilitated properties with more affordable rents. Here, qualified property owners determined by the county and its partners would receive an abatement for wanting to rehabilitate and rent the property at an affordable rate determined in program development. Site readiness is important so that when a developer or interested party comes forward, there is understanding of what lots are available and what attributes they have. Here we recommend 3 strategies. Work on site readiness to expedite housing development for larger developments. To the extent possible, work with developers of larger or targeted sites to prepare for site development. This may include reimbursing for site renderings, waiving fees, performance-based tax incentives, or otherwise expediting the permitting process. Identify potential sites for redevelopment. Establish an inventory of existing vacant and underutilized properties and engage with property owners of large and accessible parcels regarding likelihood of sale. Conduct a preliminary financial pro forma to understand gaps in financing and potential incentives required, and release a request for proposals for development specifying the development desired. Partner with companies that produce prefabricated or modular construction houses. These houses are not mobile homes, rather they are assembled on foundations. Consider recruiting a firm to establish a production facility at the Millboro Industrial Park to help meet housing needs. Develop an incentive package to attract this type of business that would create additional employment and housing in the area.
An executive summary of this report can be found at the Bath County website, that is, bathcounty.org. We would like to thank Ashton Harrison, the county administrator, and his stellar team for the support that they provided in making this study possible. If you have a question or a comment about this report, perhaps you can offer some assistance in helping alleviate the housing problems that have been discussed in this report, we would encourage you to direct those ideas or thoughts to Ms. Tracy Hibbets. She is a regional planner with the Central Shenandoah Planning District Commission, which was so very instrumental in pulling off this study. Tracy can be found at the email shown on this page, tracy@cspdc.org.